Every 4 seconds you breathe in, every 4 seconds you breathe out. Right now, you don't even think about it. But what if I told you that those 8 seconds hold one of the greatest secrets people have kept for thousands of years? My name isn't important. What matters is that after years digging through old texts, hidden places, and learning from wise teachers no longer here, I found something that can change your life forever. Breathing isn't just air moving in and out of your lungs. It's actually the way your soul talks directly to something greater than yourself. The Egyptians knew this when they built the pyramids following special breathing rhythms. The Sufis knew it when they spun in their dances, moving with the breath of the universe. The yogis knew it when they learned how to stop time and awaken a light inside their bodies. But this knowledge was lost, broken apart, hidden until now. What I'm about to share isn't just an idea or philosophy. It's a practical, powerful method to change your life at its core. Because when you change your breathing, you change what every cell in your body hears. You change your nervous system. You change how much you can create, heal, love, and be free. In the next few minutes, you'll learn why your very first breath when you were born created a split you still live with today. How the pause between breathing in and out lets you touch something eternal, and a secret breathing pattern that ancient masters used to unlock amazing states of awareness. Most importantly, you'll discover something that can change how you see yourself forever. You're not just who you think you are. You're so much more, and your breath is the key to that truth. If something deep inside you feels called, if you sense a freer, stronger, brighter version of yourself waiting to wake up, then this message didn't find you by accident. Take a deep breath. Your soul is about to remember what it never should have forgotten. Welcome to the Sacred Breath Technique. Chapter 1. The First Breath. Let me take you back to a special moment you probably don't remember, but your soul never forgot. It was your first separation from the divine, when your infinite spirit agreed to live inside a limited body and started breathing with lungs instead of forever. Before you were born, you didn't breathe air. You breathed pure life through your mother's body, perfectly connected, with no difference between giving and receiving, between breathing in and out. You were one with everything. Your oxygen came from the universe, filtered through the love of the one carrying you. There was no effort, no fear of running out of breath. You simply were, and life flowed through you like an endless river. But then the moment came. Your mom's body started pushing you out into a new world. Your tiny body, which had been floating in warm fluid, felt pressure for the first time. The first taste of resistance, of what life would be like. And in that dark passage toward the light, you experienced your first shock, not because anything was wrong, but because perfect unity was ending. When you finally came out and your umbilical cord was cut, your nervous system went through its biggest shock ever. For the first time, you were completely on your own. No one was feeding you life. You had to breathe by yourself, or you wouldn't survive. Then it happened. You took your first breath, a desperate gasp that doctors celebrate as the start of life. But really, it's the first tear of separation in the human soul. That breath wasn't just air filling your lungs. It was the moment your infinite self accepted the limits of a body, when your spirit started counting mortal heartbeats. It was the moment you forgot you were more than a small crying baby. Ancient writings say God breathed life into man's nostrils, and man became a living soul. But that truth was lost in the shock of birth. Dr. Stanislav Grof, who studies consciousness, found that many deep emotional patterns start right there in those first moments. That first breath marks the start of what he calls basic perinatal matrices, emotional imprints that shape how we breathe, how we connect to life, and how we see ourselves in the world. Gabor Mate reminds us trauma isn't just what happens to us, but what happens inside us because of what happens to us. And I tell you, the biggest trauma we all share is forgetting. Forgetting that before you breathed air, you breathed spirit. Forgetting that before you had lungs, your whole soul was one with the cosmic breath. But here's the secret shamanic traditions have kept for thousands of years: that first breath can be remembered, healed, and changed. Your breathing now doesn't have to carry the fear and separation from that moment. You can learn to breathe again like before you were born, from unity, from full trust that life is supporting you. Close your eyes for a moment and notice how you're breathing right now. You might feel something stuck, rushed, or unsure. That's the memory of that first day when you were left alone with your lungs. But you're not alone and never have been. The breath you're taking now is the same breath everyone who ever lived has taken. It's the same breath moving leaves, forming clouds, and holding stars in their dance. When you start breathing with awareness, when you remember every inhale is a homecoming and every exhale is trust, you're healing not just your first breath. You're opening the way to find who you really are, beyond the limits you accepted at birth. In the next chapter, I'll show you how to start breathing not just with your body, but with your soul, reclaiming the connection to the endless source of life that's always been there for you. Chapter 2. Breathing from the soul, not just the body. For a long time, I lived like most people, just breathing enough to keep my body going, not realizing that every breath could be a kind of prayer, a direct connection to something sacred. It wasn't until I hit a really low point, a deep personal crisis, that I realized I'd been breathing like a zombie, just taking in air to survive, not to truly live. I remember that night clearly. It was winter and I was sitting alone in my room, feeling this huge emptiness inside me. I had lost track of who I was, why I was here, and what it really meant to be alive. In that dark moment, something inside me quietly said, "Breathe differently." I didn't know what that meant, but I listened. I closed my eyes, and instead of just breathing with my lungs, I imagined breathing with my whole being, every cell, my entire soul. What happened next changed everything. It wasn't just air filling my lungs. It was life and purpose flowing in, a feeling of being connected to something way bigger than me. For the first time in years, I wasn't just breathing to keep my body alive. My soul was breathing through me, reminding me of who I really am. Neville Goddard, a great mystic from the last century, got this perfectly. He said imagination is God within us, and every conscious breath and thought is a creative act. When you breathe with awareness, you're not just moving air, you're moving the very stuff of creation. You're breathing possibilities, breathing new realities, breathing your future into now. In Buddhism, there's a practice called anapanasati, or mindfulness of breathing, but it goes way beyond just noticing air going in and out. It's about using breath to awaken your awareness, to remember that you're not just the body breathing, you're the conscious observer of that breath. The Sufi mystics put it even more beautifully. For them, each inhale was receiving the breath of God, and each exhale was sending it back filled with love and devotion. They didn't breathe air, they breathed divine presence. They didn't exhale carbon dioxide, they exhaled prayers. Now, let me ask you, how many of your breaths today were truly conscious? How many times did you actually think about the fact that you were breathing? Most people take about 20,000 breaths a day, but notice maybe one or two. That's 20,000 chances to connect with the sacred that we miss every day, going on autopilot. Your body breathes to survive, but your soul breathes to reconnect. When your body runs your breath, you breathe fast when you're scared, shallow when you're stressed, and hold your breath when you're tense. That's reactive breathing, reacting to what's happening around you. But when your soul takes over your breath, something amazing happens. Your breath becomes the tool that changes your situation. I've learned there are 3 levels of breathing. The first is automatic. Your nervous system controls it to keep you alive, but it doesn't make you feel truly alive. The second is conscious breathing. Your mind takes control, and this can already start to change things, but it's still limited by your thoughts. The third level, the deepest and strongest, is the breath of the soul. At this level, you're not the one breathing. It's life itself breathing through you. There's no effort, no control, no special technique, just complete surrender to the natural flow of your deepest self. It's like finding the rhythm you had before you were born, when you were still one with the source of all life. To find this breath of the soul, you don't need complicated exercises or years of meditation. All you need is a moment of honesty, realizing that until now you've been breathing to keep up a certain image or personality, not to truly nourish who you are. You need to be willing to let go of control and let something wiser than your conscious mind guide your breath. Right now, sit comfortably and put one hand on your heart. Take 3 deep breaths, not to relax or do it right, but to remember. Remember that you're more than this body, this personality, this story you tell yourself. With each breath in, invite your soul to grow bigger. With each breath out, let go of trying to control how this should go. When you start breathing from your soul, your whole life shifts. Your choices won't come from fear or survival anymore, but from deep inner wisdom. Your breath becomes your anchor, your safe place, your constant prayer. In the next chapter, we'll dive into that sacred moment between each inhale and exhale, the invisible space where the human meets the divine, where time stops and eternity shows up. Chapter 3. The pause between breaths, the sacred moment. There's a place we visit thousands of times every day, but most of us don't even notice it. It's more personal than any church, holier than any altar, and more powerful than any ritual. It's the tiny yet infinite moment between the end of a breath in and the start of a breath out. And then again between the end of that breath out and the next breath in. The first time I really noticed that pause, I was doing a simple meditation. I had taken a deep breath in and was about to breathe out when I heard a quiet voice say, "Wait." I don't know why, but I listened. I held the breath gently without trying or forcing, like I was holding something precious. In that still moment, with no air moving in or out, something amazing happened. I disappeared. Not like I fainted, but in a way I became more aware than ever before. The usual me, with all its worries, stories, fears, and wants, just wasn't there. There was only pure awareness, calm and peaceful, not needing anything outside itself. It felt like I had found a secret doorway to a place where time doesn't exist, just an eternal now. Ancient breathing masters called this moment kumbhaka, meaning breath retention, but they didn't mean just holding your breath as a technique. They meant those sacred pauses when breath naturally stops, because your soul has found its perfect balance. The point between giving and receiving, between holding on and letting go. In Zen, there's a beautiful idea called ma, the space between things, the silence between musical notes, the pause between words. Zen teachers believed the most important thing isn't the things themselves, but the space that connects them. In breathing, that ma is the still moment right after a full inhale before you exhale, and then again after a full exhale before the next inhale. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman discovered something fascinating about these pauses. When we create these spaces between breaths on purpose, we activate a part of our nervous system that helps the brain reset and rewire itself. It's like these no-breath moments open a window where the brain can heal and reorganize. But what science is just starting to understand mystics have known forever. In that pause, not only does your nervous system reset, but your soul does too. It's where you can let go of who you thought you were and remember who you really are. It's where limits disappear and endless possibilities open up. I've learned these sacred pauses are like little deaths and rebirths. We go through thousands of times each day. Each time your breath stops naturally after an inhale, something inside you dies. Stress, urgency, getting lost in your thoughts. And each time a new breath starts, something new is born. Peace, presence, a connection to your deepest self. The best part? You don't have to force or create these pauses with complicated exercises. They're already happening inside you right now as you read this. Between every breath in and out is a small doorway to the infinite. You just need to start noticing, honoring, and living in those moments. So next time you breathe, don't rush to the next part. After you breathe in fully, let yourself pause naturally. Don't hold your breath, just let it rest inside you like water in a sacred cup. And after you breathe out fully, allow another moment of emptiness before the next breath comes on its own. In those pauses, don't try to do anything. Don't try to think or understand or achieve. Just be. Be without story, without goal, without anything but simply being. It's there you meet the part of yourself that was never born and will never die. The part that was before your first breath and will be after your last. Mystics call this place many names. The fertile void, the silent sound, the shining darkness. I call it the sacred threshold because it's exactly that. Where your human side and your divine side meet, where time touches forever, where you and God breathe together as one. When you learn to live in these pauses, your whole life changes. You don't just live in the extremes of breathing in and out, doing and letting go. You live in the spaces in between, the stillness that holds everything, the silence that gives meaning to every sound. In the next chapter, we'll explore the sacred names different cultures have given this divine breath. You're starting to remember, because knowing its true name is the first step to unlocking its power. Chapter 4. Prana, Ruach, Pneuma. During one of my most eye-opening journeys, I met an old man in a small Indian village. His eyes shined with a deep, peaceful light, and when he spoke, his words felt like they carried the wisdom of many lifetimes. One afternoon, while we shared tea under an ancient tree, I asked him the secret to his calm and peace. He smiled and said, "When I learned the true name of my breath, I stopped being a stranger to myself." At the time, I didn't fully understand what he meant, but years later, I realized that what we call breathing has had sacred names in every culture. Names that reveal deep truths about what happens every time we inhale and exhale. These words aren't just names. They're keys that open doors to experiences the Western mind has mostly forgotten. In Sanskrit, the word is prana, but prana is much more than just air moving through your lungs. Prana is the universal life force, the intelligent energy that brings everything to life. Ancient yogis spoke of prana as the invisible connection between your breath and the cosmic breath, the life force flowing from the stars to your heart and back out to the universe. The Vedic sages taught that there are 5 types of prana flowing through your body. Prana, which controls breathing and the heart. Apana, which governs elimination and reproduction. Samana, which manages digestion. Udana, which handles speech and expression. And Vyana, which moves your limbs. But all these are part of one whole, the cosmic intelligence breathing through your temporary body. In Hebrew, there's the word ruach, pronounced ruach, which shows up over 300 times in sacred texts. Ruach means wind, breath, or spirit. It's also the word used when talking about the Spirit of God moving over the waters at creation. When Moses wrote that God breathed life into man's nostrils, he used the word ruach, meaning it wasn't just air, but God's own essence, spirit, and life. Jewish Kabbalists took this even further. For them, ruach was one of 5 levels of the human soul: the emotional and moral level, the bridge between the animal soul and the divine soul. They knew that when you breathe consciously, you're not just feeding your blood with oxygen, you're feeding the deepest parts of your being, letting your soul grow beyond your personality's limits. The ancient Greeks had their own sacred word, pneuma, meaning both breath and spirit. Greek philosophers saw pneuma as the living force of the universe, the divine intelligence that fills and moves everything. The Stoics believed pneuma was literally God's body, the divine energy showing up as breath in people and as wind in nature. The Apostle Paul, who was both Jewish and Greek, used this idea when he talked about the Holy Spirit, pneumaion. For him, every conscious breath was a chance to breathe in God's presence and breathe out everything that wasn't love. This wasn't just a metaphor, it was a real spiritual practice. What fascinates me most is that these aren't just old ideas. They're maps to a reality you can feel right now. When you start breathing with awareness of your breath's true name, your experience changes. It's no longer just air moving mechanically. It becomes prana awakening your life force, ruach connecting you to the source of all life, pneuma activating your cosmic intelligence. The ancient Hermetic sages understood this well. They spoke of the breath of Hermes, the breath that transforms heavy, ordinary things into subtle, immortal light. Every conscious breath was a kind of inner magic, turning everyday experience into awakened awareness. Years ago, during a deep breathing session, I experienced this directly. I wasn't just breathing as me, I was breathing as prana, life energy moving through my body. Suddenly I felt the same energy moving my diaphragm was also moving ocean waves, spinning planets, lighting stars. It wasn't just a feeling, it was a deep knowing, a memory of who I really am in the cosmos. At that moment, I understood why sacred traditions protected these names so carefully. They aren't just words to understand with your mind. They're gateways to states where the difference between you and your breath disappears, where you and the universe breathe as one. So when you breathe today, don't just say, "I'm breathing air." Say to yourself, "Prana is awakening in me," or "Ruach is filling me with divine life," or "Pneuma is activating my cosmic intelligence." Let these sacred names sink into your awareness. It's not about repeating words, it's about calling forth what those words really mean. Because when you know the true name of your breath, when you realize every inhale brings the whole universe inside you, and every exhale sends your unique self back to infinity, your life stops feeling separate and becomes a conscious dance with the universe's creative power. In the next chapter, we'll explore how this sacred understanding of breath can free you from fear and judgment, those patterns that keep your nervous system stuck in survival mode. Because when you breathe as the cosmos, fear has nowhere to hold on. Chapter 5. How Breath Breaks Fear and Judgment. For years, I was carrying a breath that wasn't really mine, my grandmother's breath, shaped by war and never fully released, my father's breath, tightened by poverty and always on edge, the breath of the women in my family before me, who learned to hold their breath so they wouldn't take up space, disturb others, or be noticed. I was breathing with the nervous system of my whole family history, holding traumas that weren't mine, fears passed down like eye color or hand shape. My breath was fast, shallow, always alert, always ready for the next threat. Even though my life wasn't in danger, I lived in survival mode. Everything changed when I discovered Wim Hof, the Iceman. He showed me that breath doesn't just reflect your nervous system, it can completely change it. Wim Hof found that by breathing consciously, you can reprogram how you respond to fear, cold, pain, anything that used to overwhelm you. Joe Dispenza explained why, from a science perspective, changing your breath changes the signals your heart sends to your brain, and changing those signals rewires your brain. That changes how you see and react to the world. My big breakthrough came during a panic attack. My breath was all over the place, my heart racing, my mind convinced something bad was coming. But instead of fighting it, I remembered Louise Hay's teaching about the power of loving breath. Instead of judging my fear, I breathed into it. With each inhale, I filled myself with compassion for the scared part of me. With each exhale, I welcomed the fear like a frightened child who just needed comfort. And something amazing happened. The fear started to fade, not because I pushed it away, but because I gave it love. That night, I learned fear isn't the enemy of breath, it's a powerful teacher. When fear speeds up your breathing, it's showing you that you're living in the future, worried about dangers that might never happen. When fear makes you hold your breath, it's telling you you're resisting the present moment, not trusting life to support you. Stephen Porges, who created polyvagal theory, explains that our nervous system has three main modes: social engagement, where breathing is calm and deep; fight or flight, where breathing is fast and shallow; and collapse, where breathing nearly stops as a last resort. Most of us have been stuck in the last two so long, we forget what it feels like to breathe in safety and connection. We've gotten used to the breath of fear, the breath of survival, the breath of someone always waiting for something bad to happen. But here's the secret that changed my life. Your breath doesn't just respond to how you feel, it can change how you feel. When you start breathing like someone who feels safe, your nervous system has to catch up. It hears, "I'm safe now," and relaxes. Judgment works the same way. When you judge, your breath gets tight and stuck, like you're breathing through a filter of, "This is wrong." But when you breathe with acceptance, breathing in reality just as it is, judgment naturally melts away. I've learned there's a specific breath for every emotion. Fear brings short, shallow breaths. Anger wants hot, explosive breaths. Sadness calls for deep, uneven breaths. Peace flows through slow, deep, surrendered breaths. When you learn to breathe with awareness, you can choose the emotion you live in. Feeling fear, breathe like someone who feels safe until safety becomes your truth. Feeling anger, breathe like someone at peace until peace feels natural. Feeling judgment, breathe like someone who fully accepts life until acceptance becomes who you are. This isn't about pushing feelings away or pretending. They're emotional alchemy. Breath becomes the lab where you turn hard feelings into wisdom and compassion for your soul's growth. Every time you choose conscious breathing over automatic breathing, you break the chains of fear passed down in your family. You heal not only your nervous system, but those of your ancestors and future generations. You become the point of change in your family line. Try it now. Take 3 breaths. Breathe like someone who feels completely safe in this world. Breathe like someone who fully trusts that life supports them. Breathe like someone who accepts this moment exactly as it is, without wanting it to be different. Feel your nervous system shift with each breath. Notice how fear and judgment lose their grip when your breath comes from love and acceptance. In the next chapter, we'll explore how trauma gets stuck in breathing patterns and how reclaiming your soul's natural rhythm can heal wounds you thought would never go away. Chapter 6: The Trauma Pattern and the Lost Rhythm. I met Maria at a workshop about healing trauma. She was 45, a mom of 3, successful in her career, but when you looked into her eyes, something was missing. Her breathing was barely noticeable. So quiet it felt like she was holding her breath all the time. She told me that since she was a kid, she learned to be silent when breathing because any noise could set off her alcoholic dad's anger. For over 30 years, Maria had been breathing like her life depended on staying invisible. Her soul had learned to hide behind this ghost-like breath that kept her alive, but kept her from really being present in her own life. She perfectly showed what Peter Levine calls somatic trauma, when your body stays stuck in survival mode long after the danger is gone. Trauma isn't just what happens to you, it's what happens inside when you can't fully process what happened. And the first thing trauma affects is your breathing, because breath connects your conscious and unconscious nervous systems. When something overwhelming happens, your breathing changes to help you survive. But if you never get a chance to finish that survival response, your breath gets stuck in that pattern forever. Gabor Mate, who studies trauma and illness, explains that childhood trauma isn't always abuse. It can be growing up where feelings weren't safe, where you had to be perfect to be loved, or where your emotional needs were ignored. All these experiences change your breathing in certain ways. If anger was dangerous, you learned to breathe so anger never built up. If tears were weakness, you cut off emotions before they could be felt. If love came with conditions, you breathed so you wouldn't be too vulnerable. Dr. Stanislav Grof, a pioneer of holotropic breathwork, found that when people breathe deeply and consciously for a long time, they naturally relive and release traumas held in their bodies for years. The breathing doesn't cause the trauma, it creates a safe path for the trauma to heal. I experienced this myself during a breathwork session. After about an hour of deep breathing, my body started shaking, not from fear, but like every cell was finally letting go of a response that had been stopped years ago. Memories from childhood came up. Times when I'd held my breath, when my parents fought and I became silent, when I was scared but couldn't say it, when I needed comfort but learned it was safer not to ask. With each deep breath out, I felt myself releasing not just air but years of unhealed emotions. My breathing got freer, more natural, more truly mine, like remembering how to breathe the way I did before trauma taught me it wasn't safe to breathe fully. Trauma creates specific breathing patterns. Abandonment trauma leads to anxious, chasing breaths, like you're always running after someone leaving. Invasion trauma causes tight, contained breathing, like you're afraid to take in too much air and attract attention. Betrayal trauma makes your breath cautious and held back, like every inhale must be checked for safety. But here's the magic. Just as trauma gets stored in your breath, healing can happen through your breath. When you start breathing consciously, with presence and intention, you give your nervous system a chance to finish what got stuck long ago. Traumatic breath is always on edge. Healing breath trusts, allows vulnerability, and feels safe enough to flow freely. Maria worked on conscious breathing for months. Slowly, her breath changed. First louder, then deeper, then steady and rhythmic. With every breath, she felt more free. A part of her soul that had been hidden for decades started coming back. One day she said, "For the first time in my life, this breath feels like it belongs to me, not to my story." She had found her original rhythm, the rhythm she had before trauma taught her that breathing fully was dangerous. This lost rhythm isn't just a pattern, it's your soul's natural rhythm when it's not defending itself. It's the breath you had as a baby before the world felt unsafe. It's the breath you have when you're deeply in love, when you feel completely safe, when you trust life fully. Recovering this rhythm doesn't mean reliving every painful detail. or understanding at all. It just means letting your breath be different, inviting your nervous system to explore what it once thought was too risky. Right now, put a hand on your heart and breathe as if you're completely safe in this world. Breathe as if your soul is welcome in your own body. Breathe as if every inhale is coming home and every exhale is a full act of trust that life supports you. If you feel fear or resistance, honor it. Don't force it. Gently invite it to relax, reminding yourself that the danger has passed, and you're no longer that child who had to protect themselves by holding their breath. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to consciously activate your solar plexus, the energy center where your breath becomes creative power, where divine breath turns into real, tangible results. Chapter 7. Activating God's pulse in your solar plexus. The first time I truly felt the power of my solar plexus was during a deep meditation at dawn. I had been breathing consciously for almost an hour when suddenly something sparked just below my ribs, like a tiny sun waking up inside me. It wasn't heat I felt, but a vibration, a pulse connecting my breath straight to the universe's creative energy. In that moment, I understood why ancient traditions called this the digestive fire, not just because it processes food, but because it's where your soul processes life's experiences and turns them into wisdom, power, and the ability to create. Here, breathing stops being just about air and becomes an act of conscious creation. Your solar plexus is that soft area between your chest and belly button. It acts like the conductor of your energy system. When you breathe into this center with awareness, you're not just bringing oxygen to your organs, you're feeding what Hindus call Manipura, the chakra of personal fire, where your individual will meets divine will. In Kabbalah, this spot is called Tiferet, the place of beauty and balance where all energies come together. The Kabbalists believed that when you breathe into Tiferet, you open up your ability to be a clear channel for divine light, where heaven and earth meet inside you. What fascinates me is what modern science says about the diaphragm and its link to the solar plexus. The diaphragm isn't just a muscle for breathing. It has more nerve endings than any other muscle and connects directly to your nervous system, emotional center, and thinking brain. When you breathe deeply into your solar plexus, you actually massage your vagus nerve, the nerve that helps you feel compassion and connection, activating the part of your nervous system that allows healing, creativity, and manifestation. More than that, you awaken what I call God's pulse in your system. This pulse is the steady rhythm you feel when you breathe into your center, like your diaphragm becomes the heart of your soul, pumping not blood but consciousness, not air but divine possibilities through every cell. I remember a woman named Elena who came to my workshop, stuck in years of deep depression. She said she felt like there was a black hole in her stomach that nothing could fill. During the session, I guided her to breathe into that empty space, not to fill it with something outside, but to wake up the light already there, waiting. After about 20 minutes of focused breathing, Elena started to cry. Not sad tears, but tears of recognition. She said, "I feel like I found the light switch of my soul." She had turned on that golden energy inside her that had been sleeping for years. Your solar plexus is your center of personal power, not power to control or dominate, but power to create with love, manifest with integrity, and influence with authenticity. When you activate this center with conscious breathing, you don't have to force things. You just breathe your intention into reality and life responds. In martial arts like Tai Chi and Qigong, this area is called the Dantian, the energy center where life force is stored and grown. Masters teach that when you breathe into your Dantian, you fill your Qi, the life energy that Chinese culture has honored for thousands of years. as the source of health, creativity, and spiritual strength. But activating your solar plexus isn't just spiritual talk, it's practical. If this center is weak or blocked, you live reacting to old wounds and unconscious habits. When it's open and balanced, you live from your center, your clarity, and your true purpose. I've noticed people who breathe into their solar plexus develop what I call spiritual magnetism. It's not fake charm or manipulation. It's a deep presence that naturally draws people, opportunities, and experiences that fit your highest path. To activate God's pulse in your solar plexus, place both hands just below your ribs, in that soft spot between your heart and belly button. Breathe slowly and focus your breath there. Imagine each inhale lighting a golden fire in that center. Not a burning fire, but one that shines, warms, and transforms. With each exhale, feel that golden light spreading through your body like waves of creative energy waking every cell. Don't force it, just invite that light to remember its brightness. As you breathe like this, you might feel a steady pulse in your center, like your diaphragm is syncing with the rhythm of the universe. That pulse is your direct link to the universe's creative power, your soul remembering that you're not just a passive receiver but an active co-creator. When this center is truly awake, your breath becomes practical magic. Every inhale brings what you need. Every exhale sends your intention out into the infinite field of possibilities. You don't just breathe to stay alive, you breathe to keep creating. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to use this activated breath to let go of your past and bring in your highest future, changing who you are with every conscious breath. Chapter 8. Exhaling the past, inhaling divine memory. There comes a moment when you realize you're not just a collection of wounds. You're the infinite space where those wounds can fade away. That moment comes with conscious breathing, when you finally understand that every exhale is a choice to let go, a kind of small death, and every inhale is a chance to be reborn. One night, I sat by the ocean, listening to the waves coming in and going out, with the ancient wisdom only water holds. Each wave that broke carried stories from deep below, memories of storms and calm times, and each wave that pulled back took pieces of the shore with it, changing the sand forever. That's how we breathe, and that's how we live and die with every breath cycle. Louise Hay said our thoughts create our reality, but she sensed something even deeper, that breathing is the most direct way to rewrite not just our thoughts, but the very information in our cells. Every conscious exhale sends a message through your whole being that it's okay to let go, that it's time to release what no longer serves you. Here's the secret the ancients knew, and science is just starting to understand. When you exhale, you're not just letting out air, you're releasing your old identity. You're shedding the version of yourself you thought you had to be. Each conscious exhale is a little death of your ego, a chance to untangle the invisible ties to old patterns, inherited pain, and limits that were never really yours. Greg Braden has studied how our DNA reacts to emotions and intentions, but there's something even deeper. Our DNA responds to how we breathe. When you breathe out with the intention to release, you send a clear signal to every cell saying, "We don't need this anymore. We are not that old version of ourselves." Conscious exhaling is radical forgiveness. You forgive yourself and others for ever thinking you were less than you really are. Every exhale lets go of the need to be perfect, strong, or what others expect. But the inhale, that's where the real magic happens. When you breathe in consciously, you're not just filling your lungs with air. You're breathing in new life, new information, new possibilities. You're drawing in the divine memory of who you really are, the part of you that existed before fear, before separation, before forgetting your true shining nature. The ancients knew this. Inhaling connects you to the original source, to the cosmic intelligence that sees beyond your stories. When you breathe in with intention, you're downloading truth directly from that source, like tapping into a cosmic library of your true self. I've seen people change completely just by changing how they breathe. It's not that their outside world changes right away. It's that the inner information they carry shifts. They rewrite the way they see reality, how they relate to themselves, and how they open to love. Each time you practice conscious breathing, you rewrite your cellular story, clearing out survival habits you no longer need and waking up codes for love, creativity, and success that have always been inside you, waiting to be remembered. So the next time you breathe, do it with this awareness. You have the power to rewrite yourself completely. Exhale everything you no longer need. Inhale everything you've always been. Let go of the past version of yourself. Breathe in the version that's free, radiant, and infinite. And when this becomes natural, when you don't have to remember to do it, it just happens. You'll be ready to learn how breath and imagination can work together to create completely new realities. Because what's coming next is learning to breathe, not just with your lungs, but with your heart. And to imagine not just with your mind, but with your whole being. Chapter 9. Breath and Visualization, Inner Alchemy. Inside you, there's a secret place where the real magic happens, where breath, which gives life, meets imagination, which shapes it. When you bring these two together on purpose, you don't just change reality, you create it. I remember the first time I felt this inner alchemy. I was stuck in a tough spot, feeling like life was repeating the same patterns. I had read about visualization and practiced breathing, but kept them separate, like two different tools instead of parts of the same powerful process. One day, watching a blacksmith work with glowing metal, it clicked. Breath is the fire, imagination is the metal, and your heart is the anvil where new realities are formed. Without the fire of conscious breath, imagination stays cold and shapeless. Without imagination, breath just fades away, without making real change. Neville Goddard said, "Imagination is God within us," but what he didn't always say was that imagination needs conscious breath to really create. When you imagine while breathing from your heart, you do more than daydream. You send a message to your nervous system, your cells, your whole energy field about the reality you want. Joe Dispenza has shown how combining deep breathing with focused imagination can actually change your brain and body chemistry. But what science is just beginning to understand goes even deeper. When breath and imagination come together, you create harmony between heart and brain, body and soul, the life you have now and the one you want. Your heart has its own intelligence and nervous system. Researchers who study cardiac coherence found that when your heart beats in harmony, it sends signals to your brain that improve thinking and emotions. Even more, conscious breathing plus heart-focused visualization opens up a creative state beyond normal thinking. Here's a simple way to try this. Close your eyes and take deep breaths, focusing on your heart's rise and fall. Your busy mind quiets down. In this calm, your imagination becomes clearer and stronger. Now, while your heart is calm and steady, picture your ideal life. See the best version of yourself already living it. You're not just dreaming, you're tuning your whole being to that reality. You're setting your energy to attract it. Conscious breathing connects the world of possibility to real life. Each breath in brings you info from your dream. Each breath out lets go of doubts and blocks. It's like weaving a new life with threads of light. Breath is the loom, imagination the pattern. But here's the secret. You don't imagine to get something outside yourself. You imagine to remember who you really are. Every time you visualize consciously, It's a sacred act, saying you are the creator of your experience, not a victim. When you do this inner work, everything changes. You stop waiting for life to make you happy. You start creating happiness inside, and that changes everything around you. Breath grounds you in now. Imagination connects you to endless possibilities. Together, they create a bigger presence where real creation happens. It's not fantasy magic, it's the true magic, a conscious being remembering its natural power to create. I've seen people heal tough illnesses, shift careers in impossible ways, bring peace to broken relationships, and find abundance where there was none, not by forcing things, but by remembering their own inner power. Every time you practice this, you get better at being a conscious creator. You train your nervous system to feel higher states, help your heart beat in harmony with your biggest dreams, and teach your mind to serve your soul instead of holding it back. When this flow between breath and imagination feels natural, no effort needed, you'll be ready to see how this magic becomes a healing medicine for every cell in your body. Chapter 10. Breathing to heal the body from the soul. Inside you is a pharmacy that never closes, needs no prescription, and has no side effects. It activates every time you breathe consciously, releasing the most powerful medicines: balance, divine information, and pure love. I once knew a woman fighting an illness doctors couldn't cure. She tried every treatment, saw every specialist, followed strict diets, but her body stayed out of balance, refusing to heal from outside efforts. Then she started breathing consciously, sending loving breath to every cell, and something amazing happened. Bruce Lipton changed how we understand healing by showing cells respond not just to chemicals, but to energy and information. Even beyond that, our cells react to the quality of our breath. Each conscious inhale sends a message directly to the intelligence that keeps your body alive. Ancient Chinese medicine knew this thousands of years ago. Qi, the vital energy flowing through your body, isn't just an idea, but real life force carried mainly by conscious breath. When you breathe with attention on parts of your body, you're delivering Qi, life and instructions for harmony and healing. In Qigong, every breath is a loving conversation with your body. You don't just breathe in air, you breathe in healing, intention, love, and the choice to co-create your health. When you breathe out, you release not just carbon dioxide, but tension, toxins, and what your body no longer needs. Here's the deepest secret. Healing doesn't happen by fighting your body, but by talking to it with love. Your body isn't your enemy, it's your loyal partner, working hard to keep you alive and whole. It stores every memory, processes every feeling, and keeps your heart beating even when your mind drifts. When you breathe consciously into a hurting part of your body, you start a loving dialogue. You don't battle illness, you nurture health. You don't fight symptoms, you build balance. This change makes healing different. Conscious breath becomes the messenger between your soul and your body. Each intentional inhale sends healing instructions to your cells. Each breath out lets go of old patterns that don't serve you. It's like updating your body's software, installing new programs for health, energy, and balance. I've seen people with chronic pain breathe into their pain without resistance or fear and watch their relationship to pain change. Pain becomes information, a guide, a teacher, not something to fear. Your body knows how to heal itself. Each cell carries the code for perfect health. But this wisdom can get lost in mental noise, stress, and feeling disconnected from yourself. Conscious breathing clears the lines of communication throughout your whole being. When you inhale, imagine golden light filling every cell. This isn't just visualization, it's real energy. You're bringing balance, harmony, and divine perfection into your body. When you exhale, imagine releasing everything that doesn't belong to your natural health. This isn't just alternative medicine, it's whole body healing that supports and enhances any other treatment. A calm, balanced body filled with love heals better than one filled with fear. That woman realized her body didn't need force, but an invitation to remember its natural health. Conscious breathing was that powerful invitation. It wasn't an outside miracle, it was an inside one, her body reconnecting with her soul's wisdom. Every healing breath is a simple yet amazing miracle. Your power to restore, renew, and return to wholeness. When this loving conversation with your body becomes second nature, when healing is no longer something you remember to do, but something you simply live, then you'll be ready for the ancients' most powerful secret, guarded for thousands of years. Chapter 11, The Forbidden Technique of the Ancients. In ancient Egypt's mystery schools, hidden Tibetan temples, and secret Sufi circles, there was a special practice passed quietly from teacher to student in the dark. It wasn't just a breathing technique, it was the master key that opened doors between worlds and activated the light body sleeping inside every human. After years of searching, studying ancient texts, and experimenting in my own inner work, I'm ready to share this sacred sequence, not because I own it, but because the age of secrets is ending. The world needs to remember what it has always known. Gurdjieff called breathing the bridge between the automatic and conscious parts of ourselves. He sensed certain breathing patterns could wake up hidden centers of awareness, but didn't share the full method, knowing only a ready heart could handle its power. The Egyptians called it the breath of Ra, because when done right, a person would literally glow from within, shining with a visible light. Tantric yogis called it secret pranayama, a way to reach states of consciousness beyond the physical. This technique combines three things that, when used together, create a powerful transformation: a specific rhythm that syncs the nervous system, a focused intention to direct energy, and a visualization that activates the light body. It's simple to do, but deep in meaning and requires understanding. Getting ready, preparing your inner space. Find a quiet, private space. Sit up straight, not stiff, but dignified, as if you're an antenna between earth and sky. Close your eyes. Place one hand on your heart and the other on your solar plexus. These are your two energy centers for this practice. The rhythm, 7-1-7-1. Inhale for 7 heartbeats. Hold the breath for 1 heartbeat. Exhale for 7 heartbeats. Hold the breath out for 1 heartbeat. This rhythm isn't random. The ancients found it syncs brainwaves, balances the nervous system, and opens energy channels that usually stay closed. Focused intention. As you inhale, imagine a golden light entering not just your lungs, but every pore, the top of your head, and your hands. This light is pure consciousness, always there waiting for your call. While holding your breath, focus that golden light in your solar plexus, like an inner sun shining warmth and light through your whole body. Feel it nourish every cell, organ, and system with life, divine wisdom, and unconditional love. As you exhale, see that golden light expanding out from your solar plexus, filling your entire body and spreading beyond your skin in a glowing field. Let go of any heaviness, limits, or old patterns that don't belong to your true, luminous self. While holding after the exhale, rest in the empty space, the silent moment full of infinite possibilities where divinity breathes with you. This is the real place of transformation, where your ego melts away and your soul grows. Repeat this cycle for 21 breaths. The number 21 completes a full alchemical cycle. The ancients knew that after 21 deep breaths, a big shift happens in your energy. But be careful. Don't treat this like just exercise. Treat it like a prayer, an act of love toward your soul, an invitation for your inner divinity to shine more fully. Shamanic masters added a final touch in the last 7 breaths. They imagined their bodies turning transparent, like glowing crystal. They knew seeing yourself as pure light unlocks hidden genetic codes, awakening powers beyond normal biology. This practice was forbidden, not because it's dangerous, but because it's powerful. It wakes up such self-divinity that the person becomes free from outside control. Someone who knows they are light can't be ruled by fear. A soul that remembers its brightness can't be limited by lack or separation. I've seen people completely transform after months of this practice. They don't just change their outer lives, they shift deeply inside, becoming natural sources of peace, harmony, and unconditional love. And when that happens, the final stage comes naturally. You no longer breathe. You are breathed by life itself. Chapter 12. Breathing effortlessly. There comes a moment on the spiritual path that can't be forced or planned, but it changes everything. It's the moment when you stop trying to breathe and instead let the breath breathe you. You realize you never really did the breathing. Life itself has always been breathing through you. Teresa of Avila called this the soul's full surrender to God, when the one who prays and the prayer become one. Tibetan Dzogchen masters talk about the natural mind, where the meditator, meditation, and what's being meditated on all dissolve into pure awareness. Eckhart Tolle calls it presence, the oneness of observer and observed. After years of practice learning techniques and going through deep changes, you reach this highest surrender, a place where all the techniques aren't needed anymore because you remember the simplest, most natural art, the art of letting go. One spring morning, I was walking through the forest where I grew up. I wasn't practicing anything special, just being present and open. And I noticed my breath had its own rhythm. It wasn't controlled by my mind. It came from a deeper wisdom. Each inhale felt like the universe inviting more life, love, and presence in. Each exhale was a natural offering, a silent thank you shared with everything around me. No effort, no technique, no me doing the breathing. Just breath breathing itself through what I thought was my body. In that moment, I understood what mystics across traditions have tried to explain with words. The separation between the breather and the breath is an illusion. The I is just the conscious space where universal breath shows up, experiences itself, and knows itself. Zen masters say, when you walk, just walk. When you eat, just eat. When you breathe, just breathe. But there's a deeper level. When you breathe, don't even breathe. Just be breathed by everything that exists. This state isn't made by adding anything, but by letting go of what you're not, the controller, the doer, the one chasing results, leaving only pure awareness, breathed by life. At this stage, your presence becomes something special. You become like a tuning fork vibrating with the universe's fundamental tone. People feel peace around you without knowing why. Animals come close naturally. Children smile freely, not because you do anything special, but because you stopped doing what isn't needed. Your breath is so natural that others start breathing more freely near you. You radiate harmony effortlessly. You become the silent healer the ancients spoke of. Someone who heals simply by being who they are, without trying. In this state, you don't need to set aside special meditation time, because every moment is meditation. You don't need techniques, because the best technique is having no technique. You don't search for higher states, because you realize your natural state is already elevated. Breath becomes like your heartbeat, automatic yet deeply aware, like ocean tides, following cosmic rhythms beyond control, but perfectly wise. Like trees growing, steady and unhurried, following nature's laws that express divine love. Sometimes you sense you're not a separate self-breathing air, but the air itself flowing through a human form. You realize there's no difference between the oxygen in your lungs and the oxygen in the leaves around you. You know without a doubt that you are just a temporary wave on the infinite ocean of consciousness. This is the ultimate gift of conscious breathing, reaching the point where you don't practice anymore because you become the practice itself. You don't seek connection with the divine because you realize you were never apart. You don't long for peace because you discover you already are peace. From this place of total surrender, being breathed by life itself, your very presence blesses everything around you. You don't preach, teach, or try to change anyone. You simply are, and your being reminds others of who they really are. When you get here, you see that this whole book, all the techniques and insights, had one goal: to bring you back to the simple truth of being breathed by love itself. Then maybe you'll become a quiet messenger of that ancient truth. We are all one, breathing together in the great lung of the universe, sustained every moment by infinite grace. The sacred technique of divine breath is complete when no technique remains. Only life flowing through you, only love loving through you, only consciousness knowing itself through the unique, unrepeatable wonder that is you.